Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey at the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China. I'm going to answer a few commonly asked questions. One of the first people have been asking, hey, are you in a different gym? Well, no, and yes, I'm actually upstairs from my gym because we're having some renovations right now. The second floor gym, the JX Fight Club, it's under construction. So that's why this is different. We're actually up on the sixth floor in a conference room, holding our classes, put some mats down here, brought up some equipment while the gym is being repaired and renovated, getting some new mats, cage panels, stuff like that. It's going to be awesome. Now, next question I've been asked a lot, not just recently, but over the years, is how are you teaching martial arts in China? Didn't the Chinese invent martial arts? And the thing is, MMA, mixed martial arts, is such a new thing in this part of the world. I mean, 8 years ago, it was almost unheard of. So when I came to China and I opened up an MMA gym, the very first one in Shanghai, one of the first ones in China, I think the second one in the whole country, first one was up in Beijing, it was very difficult to sell. I talked about this before, how, again, when nobody knows what it is you're selling, it's kind of difficult to sell it. So getting people to come to an MMA gym is difficult. Now, did martial arts originate in China? Kind of, yeah. I guess historically we can date most traditional martial arts back. We can trace them back to Chinese martial arts, at least through the Asian traditions. Now, what the modern state of China is like is very different. It's, if you're picturing a country where everybody's a kung fu master, it's not like that at all. In fact, there's a huge disparity in physical culture between the older generation and the younger generations. Every morning, 6, 7, 8 a.m., you'll see old people out in the parks. They're doing stuff. They're moving. They're doing tai chi. They're doing kung fu forms. They're dancing. They're doing ballroom dancing. They're walking. They're doing exercises. They're stretching out. You'll see 90-year-old ladies, 100-year-old ladies stretching out, doing the splits, holding their legs up over their heads without, having to crunch down like that. More flexible than me. And again, because they come from a generation where it's, physical culture was a big deal. It's just what people did, not just what they did for fun or recreationally. It's just what they did and how they lived their lives. I think the older generation has an appreciation of health and living in their bodies, not just up in their minds. Whereas the younger generation is different, and it's not necessarily all their fault because they've been shipped off and boxed into schools and basically forced to spend their lives studying because their parents hoped that, if they studied and studied and studied, that they could have a better life than they did, that they could prosper economically. And so that's why you see so many young children, all they know is school, studying, books, book learning, cerebral processes, and they don't really get to live in their bodies. They don't get recess. They don't get playgrounds. And so because of that, the traditions of kung fu are largely lost on the younger generations. So you don't see very many young people who are interested in kung fu, and you'll almost never see any young people who are good at it. Now, I've met some elderly people who are good at various kung fu forms, but they're few and far between because they're a dying breed. They're dying off. So I often hear people say traditional martial arts doesn't work in a real fight. And, that's true and it's not. Our modern interpretation of traditional martial arts does not work in a real fight. But whatever that was based on, whatever combative movement that was once based on, was real fighting. So when we see, you know, a taekwondo form like ha, or a karate form where we pull the hand down into the hip and bring this other one up, you're like, nobody boxes like that. Well, duh, because that's not boxing. That's, you know, we catch a kick and pull that kick in one direction and throw that punch at the other person's face. And that's a technique you see in mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, Sanda, kickboxing, all the time. But we don't recognize it because we don't see that shape exactly. Because fighting is very dynamic and forms very static. Similarly, you might have seen a Tai Chi form that looks a little bit like that, you know, but we got some legs into it. And a lot of people think that's collecting mystical chi energy or something. No, that's a golf swing single leg takedown is what that is. If you look that term up, golf swing takedown or golf swing single leg, Kerry Colott has a great video on that, Olympic wrestling champion. And that's a technique also from Tai Chi Chuan. Catch the leg, take it out from under him. And again, that's part of Tai Chi. That's one thing that surprised me a lot about the real combative form of a lot of traditional Chinese martial arts is it's not what you see in the movies. In the movies, you almost exclusively see striking, you know, fancy strikes and big flying kicks and, you know, pretty stuff. You see modern wushu. But surprisingly, a lot of the original stuff is grappling. Most of Tai Chi is grappling. And that might not have been what you were taught by some young guy who might not have known any better. But again, Tai Chi Chuan is largely a grappling art. Self-defense is an interesting situation, I think, because most self-defense instructors don't know how to grapple, in my experience. That's changing in the modern world because, you know, a lot of people think, well, I need to keep up with the times, so I need to learn some jiu-jitsu or wrestling or whatever, because apparently grappling is a thing that happens, but, you know, a lot of those guys are still living in the past, and they think, grappling, schmappling, we don't need that. But as soon as you get close enough to lay hands on another person with a strike or whatever, you're close enough to grapple. If you fail to avoid a fight, if you fail to run away, you're close enough to grapple. So if your self-defense doesn't involve grappling, yeah, you're doing yourself a big disservice. And you might be thinking, well, if I start grappling some dude, his friends might jump in on me. No. I'm not talking about like clinching with the guy and holding him down for 5 minutes. That's a very different thing than what you'll ever see in a self-defense situation. Right? I mean, grappling can be as simple as somebody grabs your wrist and you know, just got my hand free. Grappling can be as simple as somebody grabs a collar tie on you and you know how to, you know, pummel to the inside and, you know, get out of that. Okay? It doesn't necessarily mean drag somebody to the floor, twist them into a human pretzel and make them tap out. I mean, that's only part of what grappling is. Grappling is a set of tools to put the fight where you want it. And again, Hollywood and Hong Kong cinema and all this tradition of fight choreography has kind of perverted the idea of what a fight is supposed to look like, what a fight is supposed to be. And so again, now whenever I tell people I teach martial arts in China, Westerners in particular, they just can't process that. Like, what? How does some white American teach the Chinese martial arts? They should be teaching you. And dude, it's not like that. It's not like that at all. I mean, man, think about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilians took a Japanese martial art, modified it, took it to the United States. Yes, Brazilians culturally appropriated a martial art from the Japanese, took it to the United States, taught it to Americans. Americans took it to China, and now I'm teaching Chinese, a Brazilian martial art appropriated from the Japanese, brought to America. I mean, We cannot afford to compartmentalize things like that. We cannot afford to compartmentalize learning into ethnocentric exclusivity. So yes, I teach mixed martial arts in Shanghai, China, and I'm pretty dang good at it.